Obscured Until Observed is the debut full-length album from Venus. This is an Athens, Greece-based technical or progressive thrash metal band with power metal influences, and one that formed around the pandemic, essentially, and very much resembles the later progressive metal influenced side of Vector. Now, that doesn't mean that they are just screaming, skronking riffs and a couple of interesting vocal patterns thrown in. This is a band that has kind of followed along with the general evolution of technical and progressive thrash metal as it sort of petered out in popularity beyond 2016 when Terminal Redux released. There hasn't really been a band that has entirely topped the that style for as many bands that really tried to ape their sound and that were influenced by Vector throughout the 2010s. Nobody really ever followed that album up with anything of great substance. They usually steered back a little bit in time and pulled back to maybe their more harder hitting records earlier in the 2010s. So for this record, I feel like they've come close to the ambition of Terminal Redux in a lot of ways. And because of that, it's going to be hard to clip this record and not have it sound either very different from that sound or a little bit too enamored with Vector's sound. So we'll just get right into it with a clip and see what comes of it. So no doubt there, if you followed my technical thrash metal list that I wrote years ago, probably back in 2012, 2013, you'll remember that there are a lot of bands that sound like Vector out there, and few of them are very interesting in terms of what they've done with the sound. I think that more recently, bands like Paranorm and Vexavoid gave it some energy and some thought, and Vorbid is a band that kind of did their own thing. It was a little more of a an over-the-top vocal, and on their most recent record they touched upon modern progressive metal in a very accessible way. It was a really interesting record, and Venus does something similar without going quite as approachable. They do have two vocalists, and these songs are very complex in the way they develop and showcase the skills of the two folks involved. But really, these are two guitarists who made a band, and it's just them. So the thing is, they both have sharp vocal skills, they both have distinct styles, and the interplay between the two guitarists is amazing. It really is the feature of this record, and watching them play, as well as just focusing on the interplay of the two guitarists, is really the spectacle and what's so impressive about this band. Because the drums, I believe the drums are artificial, and the bass guitar is not featured strongly enough at all. It really becomes a dual guitarists album, and in that sense, it's fascinating. It is a guitar record, it is a thrash metal record, but it's also kind of a progressive power metal influenced thing as well. And I don't mean that in the old school sense so much as there's a little bit of a modern power metal feeling to some of these parts that they're not really Agent Steel or the Painkiller influenced side of power thrash. And that's kind of where I veer. Like, I love a band like Sacral Rage or something like that. So, uh, basically this record ties itself in knots through its rhythms, and either you're going to love that because you enjoy those progressive nuances and the drifts off into space, and a lot of the dynamics of listening to this record really depend on your ability to focus on basically guitar music for a long period of time. And I think that's going to appeal to a lot of people who are into thrash, especially Vector and things like that, because it sounds a lot like Vector. um, so that's I think the challenge is taking the sound that is supposed to be a bit catchy, a bit memorable, and writing better songs around it. I think that they've proven that they can do this, and they've proven that they are just an absolute mill for exciting riffs. They've mastered their sense of rhythm here in a way that is just incredibly impressive. but I think they're fully capable of doing more with melody, with harmony in terms of the vocals. I think that the vocal style could be both more expressive and intense, and I think that they really sorely need the input of a real rhythm section, because adding a bassist to this fray here could help find those more science fiction, elaborate, progressive ambitions that they're clearly leaning into here. And just having a drummer who can pull it all off would be very impressive as well. So, without that input, it's just a very strong debut, proving that they can really get it done. And I'm not about to spit at that. It's a great record, and if you're a fan of technical thrash metal or progressive thrash metal, this is a real thing. Even if it's just two guys who play the guitar, it's a great record. So check that out. It's out on the 14th, and go ahead and read the review to see what else I think about it.